Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Smile. Today's guest is Shannon McCabe. Shannon is a certified holistic nutritionist, sober coach, influencer, and mother who has transformed her personal battle with alcohol addiction into a mission to help others break free. Now, over 3 years sober, she shares her journey of recovery while balancing life as a homeschool mum to her daughters, one of whom has special needs. With an engaged community of nearly 50,000 followers on Instagram, Shannon offers honest, relatable insights into sobriety, wellness, and self discovery. She is the host of The Shannon McCabe Show, a podcast dedicated to real talk about alcohol, empowerment, and redefining sobriety on your own terms. With an authentic voice and a passion for helping women step into their fullest potential, she continues to inspire others to live alcohol free with confidence and purpose. I am really looking forward to this conversation today. So, without any further delay, Shannon, welcome to Behind the Smile. How are you today?
Good, thank you. Gosh, like, almost when you hear your story all laid out like that, it almost got me a little emotional. It's wild. It's wild how much
Yeah.
life has changed since I quit drinking. So,
It's pretty crazy, right? And,
yeah,
3 years, I think when you're in it can feel like such a long time. But then when you look back, it's like, wow, it's only been 3 years and so much of my
right.
life has changed.
Yes, that's exactly it. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like the saying that you hear when you're a mother, like the days are long, but the years are short. Like sometimes it seems like I just quit drinking yesterday, but in other times it feels like a lifetime ago, all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, totally crazy. Well, I'm really excited to hear more about your story here today. And I know it's going to offer a lot of value to our listeners. So, can we kick things off with where do you live? What does an average day look like, Shannon? And what do you do for fun?
Oh, okay, I love that. So I live in Wisconsin. So I'm in the States, I'm in the Midwest. We are heading into winter here. So it's finally starting to feel like fall and the longest part of the year for me. An average day, my whole life really revolves around my home. I work from home. I'm a homeschool mom. My girls are all teens or young adults now, but two of them are still school age. So my day consists of getting up. I've got a really solid morning routine, which sobriety has given me, thank God, because it just allows me to show up and do all the things I do. So it's like morning routine. Most of my work happens in the morning when kids are doing schoolwork. My daughter with special needs is also kind of like the quietest, the most well behaved in the morning time. So that's when I do my work. And so then by lunchtime, I'm mostly switching into family mode and mom mode. School stuff they need help with. It's, the house stuff. Sometimes it is fun work stuff like this when I get asked to be on podcasts and things like that. And then our family time when we can and the evenings is really sacred to me. Like that's one thing that sobriety really has brought me back to. Like I spent so many years drinking and feeling like I needed to kind of like escape the mundane aspects of being a mom, but now like it's my favorite part. It's what I live for all day long is just doing the things that need to be done so then I get to spend time with the family that I'm blessed to have. So that's mostly what my days look like here. Obviously there's running around and everything like that, all the things that come with being a mom. For fun, oh my gosh, I feel like, oh, what do we do? No, I love to spend time with friends. The older I get, the more I realize like my circle is small, but it's
Mm.
good. Like I've got, the good handful of friends that are like sisters and just keep me grounded, keep me going. I'm close with my family, like, mom, my parents, my sisters, my nieces and nephews and stuff. So if I'm not spending time like with, my husband and my daughters, we spend a lot of time with our families because they really are fun
Mm.
and bring us a lot of joy. So we do that. Otherwise, I'm reading outside as much as I can be, like I said, in the Midwest where we live, the seasons. We get all four seasons and sometimes it can be crazy, but I just love to be outside, love to be in nature. It's really also another part of what really keeps me grounded.
Mm.
And then sorry, I forgot the last thing that you asked.
That's it. No, you've nailed it. That's perfect. Yes, you've covered all of those. I'm really
Oh wait,
curious to know, what
yeah.
does your morning routine look like? Because I'm the same. I'm a morning routine girly.
Yeah.
It's something that I adopted when I got sober, and it's
Yep.
such a an important foundation to my recovery today. What does yours look like? I'm
It
curious.
is. Yes. So in a nutshell, like as soon as I get up, I drink a lot of water before I have coffee because coffee is like what gets me up in the morning. But, try to really, I am a really health conscious person, especially as I get older, right? And especially in sobriety, like constantly like, oh, just please let me repair all the damage to my body. So water and then coffee. While the coffee is brewing, I'm getting my special needs daughter like her like food and toys set for the day. She's always awake when I wake up. That's kind of my alarm clock. So I get her settled and then I get out. My morning routine consists of usually at this point in my life a good 30 to 40 minutes that I get to spend a gratitude journal and devotionals. So I've got like 3 different apps on my phone that I use for devotionals. I've got a couple books that I read. So I'm very much a creature of habit. Like
Mhm.
there's so few things in my life I can control, so I like to control my morning routine because it gives me a little bit of a sense of power. So
Yeah.
yes, it's like I do my devotionals, I do my gratitude journaling, and like I said, on a good day, I get like 45 minutes to do that. Sometimes if Dylan, my daughter with special needs, is not having a good day, I might only get like 10 minutes, but that's still okay. Then I maybe shift things more to like podcasts or YouTube or things I can put on in my ears if I have to be like doing more things for the family. But yeah, that is 100% where I like just try to like calm the noise and the stress in my head and get
Mm,
grounded before I start showing up for everybody else all day long.
mm, so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about gratitude here on this podcast, and I'm a big fan of writing a gratitude list. But something else that you spoke to just then was your devotional practice. I
Yeah.
have a devotional practice. It's so, so important to me. But for someone who's listening along who perhaps doesn't know what you mean by that, can you tell me
Yeah.
what does that entail and what is the benefit of that for you?
Yeah. So for me, and I mean, without going too much into it, it's really still a very moving part of my day because I was not a believer for most of my adult life. I kind of left God, left the church at the age of 18. And then a little over a year ago, actually right before I hit 2 years sober, my father passed away. And it was one of these moments that it brought me to my knees. And I immediately found myself turning back to God. And so it's still very tender. Like I'm trying to relearn this relationship. And so I've been finding a lot of solitude and a lot of anchoring and just getting back into reading the Bible. And so I have, like I said, quite a few apps, quite a few devotionals that I've just gotten recommendations from friends. And it's what I turn to honestly to just help me make sense of the things that happen in life like this that hurt and that seem really unfair and really heavy, but we have to somehow find a way to process it and deal with it while still doing all of the other things that we have to do in life. And so,
Mm,
yes, for me, it's really been something that just, yeah, has helped me feel less alone in
mm,
the world and given me something to turn to and rely on while I have the majority of the rest of my life is people needing me and relying on me. And so my devotionals and my relationship with God has helped me figure like, okay, I have something that I can go to when I need to be like buoyed. So then I can do all of the stuff for all of the other people and make it through each day, really.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm the same. I didn't actually grow up in a religious environment. I did go to an Anglican girls' school and I was in the choir. So I spent a lot of time in church singing, singing hymns and hearing the priest talk, but I never really had a strong connection to it. And it wasn't until I got sober, and I got sober through 12 step, and part of that program is to connect with a higher power, whether that be God, universe, spirit, source, it can be whatever you want. But in that, learning how to pray and to connect with something outside of me, it has made such a difference to the way that I view life. It's my
Yeah.
perception to life has changed. Life itself may not have actually changed all that much, but the way I perceive it has changed. And to your point, feeling like you're not alone and feeling like, when you're responsible for all these other people, who's holding you up? And it's that connection to source. And I so find, Shannon, time and time again, when I speak to different people, whether they're in recovery or not, it really doesn't matter. there's a real difference between people who have something, who have that connection, and people who don't. And I seem to feel as though it's really that contentment, that
Yeah.
serenity, that peace of mind that is
Mm.
directly correlated to whether or not you are connected to something outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And like you said, like it can be religious. You know, my husband actually went back to his religion when he got sober. For me, it's more spiritual. You know, I'm a
Hmm.
yoga teacher and a meditation teacher, and I've gone down more of that path. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's just having something, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. 100%. I 100% agree. When I quit drinking, I didn't do the 12 steps. I wasn't in that program, but as soon as just the way God works or whatever we want to call it, because yes, even when I was not in a relationship with God, I've always been very spiritual. So the
Mm,
universe is what I have been praying to or and talking with for the last 25 years. And so in a lot of aspects I say like, yes, I've changed the word back to God for me and I do turn to some religious texts like the Bible now, but it's still so much bigger than that. And what I was going to say is at the same time, when my father died and I started having these moments, I met a handful of people in the 12 step recovery program. And they were the first ones that, like, I don't know how I didn't know this, but the idea of just a God of your understanding. And when I heard those words, like I felt like something like fall into place inside of me because that for me, it was like permission. It was like,
hmm
I I can figure out what works for me. It doesn't have to be going back to exactly what it was in my childhood because there's a lot of it was not a good situation when I left the church. Like I left it for a reason and I'm like I didn't want to go back to that. But yeah, when like the God of my own understanding, I was like it was like this exhale that I didn't even know that I was holding my breath. And like you said, it's
Yes.
I I was so happy in my sobriety for the first 2 years, but I didn't know how much was actually still missing until I came back to this relationship. For me, it was this relationship with God and a God of my own understanding. And it was just like it's just felt like a homecoming in the last year. It's like that I never knew I needed. Like I said, right? It's just been like this the biggest unexpected blessing because I wasn't searching for it and I didn't think that I needed it. And yet it's completely changed my life in the last year.
And thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I agree. It's so true as well that, you know, there's such a stigma with organized religion. And I think that so many people, even myself, I was like, I'm not following that. Why would I do that? You know, there's like I said, so much stigma, so much controversy, particularly I think with the Catholic Church. And so for a lot of people, they go, well, I'm just not doing that. But it doesn't have to be one or the other. There's so many different pockets of religion, spirituality. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch Jay Shetty's podcast with Madonna recently.
No.
My goodness, it's phenomenal. She talks
Wow.
all about her own spiritual experience and she's been studying Kabbalah for 29 years and her teacher actually comes onto the show and just the way that she talks about how having a spiritual life is the only reason that she has her life today. It's
Yeah.
definitely worth a listen or a watch. If you have
Good.
the time, it's long. It's like over 2.5 hours, but it's really good. Really, really good
Okay.
episode. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's just for anyone listening and Shannon, check it out for sure. Anyhow, okay, we've totally gone off on a topic that I
I
didn't
know.
think we were even going to run down, but hey, this is why I love these
Yep.
conversations. So, Shannon, I would love to talk about your photo now. So, this is a photo from a time in your life where you were hiding behind a smile. You were presenting one version of yourself externally, but the truth was internally you were struggling. So, could you please, for our audience, describe the photo that I'm bringing up on the screen right now? What's going on here? And what was really going on in that time in
Yeah.
your life?
I mean, this photo really is actually like I mean, it's a physical and like metaphorical picture of what was happening because in that picture I was actually at a conference, at a seminar for the company I was working for at the time. And that had been it had been a really big season of change in my life because I've been a certified holistic nutritionist and wellness coach for like 10 years. And so I've been affiliated and associated with different companies throughout that time. And I had spent most of my career with one company. And about 6 months before this picture was taken, I left and went to another company. And just even that whole transition, like now in hindsight, once I got sober and once I really took a look at what I was doing, like alcohol was running the show and I was not making smart decisions. And I burned a lot of bridges that did not need to be burned and found myself now. with a company surrounded by people that immediately did not really align, but I had to make it work. So I was at this conference and literally I remember that picture. I had showed up late to to that day's, like, there's always seminars and breakout sessions and stuff like that. I missed the entire morning because I had spent the night before at the hotel bar drinking like double vodka sodas, didn't probably go to bed until 3 a.m., pulled myself out of bed by 11 with like a pounding headache. I mean, for me, like vodka headaches were always a whole different beast than any other
Yeah.
hangover. It was hell. But I was like, I was new to this company. I had made a very big deal about switching to this company. I had done well very quickly. So I had a team of people that were like following me and watching me. I'm like, I've got to go to this lunch. I had actually won a lunch with the president of the company. So it's like, even now looking back, I'm like, this is when I know God had me, even though, even though I didn't believe in him, it was like, how did I not burn my business to the ground in this moment? Because I walked into that convention room literally about 5 minutes before that picture was taken to meet the people that I was there to meet and go to this lunch with the president of the company. So I'm like plastering a smile on my face, even though I'm dehydrated. I had like the shakes, like withdrawal
Yes.
basically, like because I had
Yes.
drank so much vodka the night before. So I was not only like just physically ill from like the ugly beast of my like alcoholism that I refused to acknowledge at that point because I was still constantly spinning this story of look at me, like I'm really smart and I'm really successful in my work and I'm a good mom and I had a good marriage and like on paper, all of the boxes were checked, even though in my head, like I knew it was like a dumpster fire of anxiety and self-loathing. And then even like that time was about 15 months before I finally got sober. So it would get worse before it got better. But I had gained weight. Like I was so self-conscious because I did not look or feel like myself, but I had very much settled into this time period where I was like, I'm just too far gone. Like I had lost so much of my health. I had gained so much weight. I hated myself so much that I was really like, what's the point? Like, what's the point in even trying? So it was just crazy because at the same time, I'm like I said, I'm making a living off of helping other people incorporate healthy habits into their life. And I was doing all of those things too, right? Like eating organic and I was still working out all the time, but I was drinking almost 2 bottles of wine most nights. And so it was showing in a million different ways. And yeah, so that when you when you asked me to find a picture and I found that one, I'm like, oh, this is like a gut punch because I just remember, yeah, barely making it to the things I needed to make it to on that trip. But then just continuing, like, even though I was so hungover during the lunch when that picture was taken, within a couple hours, I was like, okay, well, should we just skip this last session and like go get more drinks? Like, it was just that beast of like, I need to, the hair of the dog and let's just do it again. And it was just excruciating, honestly.
Yeah, Shannon, you have just told my story. Like, that's exactly where I was at about 18 months before I got sober. Almost 2 years. I was working for L'Oreal Australia. I was in New York. I was one of the brands that I looked after as a national sales manager was It Cosmetics. So I was just outside of New York or in Hudson, actually, meeting with the team. And then the founder, Jamie Kern-Lima, walked into the office that day. I'm sure you know who Jamie is. It was like this pinch me moment, my absolute idol. And I was meeting her, and yet what people couldn't see from the outside looking in was that I was so violently hungover. We'd been out for team drinks the night before. I blacked out. I don't know how I got home. I woke up with a black eye, so my like a massive black eye. So I had makeup to cover that. And here is this incredible woman standing in front of me. And all I wanted in that moment was for the ground to open up and swallow me whole because I felt so disgusting, so full of shame, so embarrassed as well.
Right.
And what is everyone thinking? What did I say last night? Are any of the people in this room, were they with me? Like it was horrific.
Right.
But that certainly didn't stop me. Like I was the same. I think I had another like 18 months before I finally pulled the pin. It's just insane what we will put up with and what we'll
Yeah.
continue to do to ourselves.
Yep. The way we normalize it, like that's the thing even now, like even when in situations like this where whether I'm talking with clients or things like this and I'm telling the story, like even hearing it, I'm like, how on earth did I not think that, like, how did I let it go that long? How did it get that bad? Like, how did I survive that for so long? Like, that's it too, because as soon as you start talking about it, like, I can feel it. Like, I can remember. And it's like, how did I survive that? Like, how did I, and like, thank God I didn't actually like burn my life to the ground or really hurt myself or
Mhm.
hurt somebody. But it's just like,
Mhm.
how did I just keep doing that day after day
Mm.
and let it keep going as long as it did? But all of the, what I always circle back to when I ask that question is like, it's because that's what alcohol does. Like, it is one of the most powerful drugs on the face of the earth. We just don't
Mm.
call it that. So,
Mhm.
it's like I kept just making the excuses and kept doing it over and over because it seemed like, well, somehow this just is on me. I just need to figure out how to do this better, right? Like, I just, like, there's just something other people know that I don't know yet. So I'm just going to keep trying to figure it out, not knowing the whole time. It was just like, no, you just need to stop drinking. Just get it out of
Yes.
the picture and all of these problems are going to go away. But I didn't know that at the time.
Of course, because it's so progressive, isn't it? We don't wake up one it doesn't go from 0 to 100. For most of us, it's, over a period of time, our tolerance becomes greater, so we have to drink more to create the same effect, and then, that goes from half a bottle to a bottle. I was the same, 2 bottles a night by the end, and then those violent hangovers, which almost for me became the norm. I was so
Yeah.
used to feeling so average.
Yep.
It wasn't until I was about 6 months sober that I was like, "Oh my god, this is what a normal person feels like on a
Right.
day-to-day basis. This is
Yes.
amazing."
Yeah.
With
Exactly.
that thin
I
cloud.
know.
So, Shannon, I'd love to understand, can you help me put the puzzle pieces together of how you did get to that point? Because as we said, it doesn't happen overnight. So when did you start drinking and what did that progression really look like for you?
It's so interesting to me. I write as I always am like reflecting and trying to figure it out. So I started drinking in high school. So I had my first drink when I was 15. And looking back now, like knowing everything I know, I can see how from the very beginning it was never good and never normal. But I just didn't know that. Like that very first time I drank, I got violently sick, right? Which I get probably a lot of teenagers do, but I did. But it actually continued on that way for most of high school, at least, to the point that I don't talk about this often, but my nickname in high school was the cat because I would reliably throw up every single time I drank. And like I just did that. I did it all the time to the point where it's like I actually didn't really know what hangovers were until college because every time I drank in high school, I got sick. And so
Mm,
actually the next day then I felt great because I
mm,
would get drunk, puke, blackout, and feel great the next morning. Nobody was telling me that that was like as dangerous and terrible as it was. And so by college, I definitely was not throwing up as much. So I experienced hangovers, but even that, I still fit into what seemed like just normal college behavior, right? We would party on the weekends. So at that point, it wasn't like it was every day or anything like that. It's like I was a good student. I studied. We'd party Friday, Saturday, and then I'd rein it in during the week. And it really continued like that for a long time because then I went to graduate school. I met my husband in college. We got married right after college, went then to chiropractic school. He's a chiropractor. We were in school together, but then we started having kids. So I never went into practice with him. But so our college years were about 8.5 years. And so it was that scene, right? Like we would drink and party on weekends, but the rest of the time we had our act together, right? We were smart.
mhm.
We were figuring our life out. And the same thing once we had kids. Like I really, really blessed after some fertility issues that I was able to get pregnant and have each of my daughters. And it wasn't a problem to be pregnant and not drink. Like my drinking wasn't that bad at that point, and I was always fine. Like breastfeeding, I still like I was grateful and happy to be able to do that. So it wasn't an issue to not drink. And then when Dylan, my daughter with special needs, was born, she's the second of my three daughters. That's when, like looking back, I can see when alcohol started to become a problem because I was nursing her. She was about still 2 at that point, but we had kind of fallen into a trap of where it's like I would nurse her, she'd go to bed, and then Matt and I would be like, let's have a beer, eat some popcorn, and watch TV. Like we had just dealing with an insane amount of trauma and even grief and stress over having this new little baby with special needs but we didn't even know to call it that, right? Like we
Mm,
didn't because she was healthy and she was mostly okay. So nobody was really talking to us about our feelings. And it didn't occur to us that we were going through an insane life moment and probably needed some help to process all of it. We were just trying to like get back to normal as soon as possible. And
Mm.
for us, alcohol was kind of a part of that. So even though at that point it was just like, the kids are in bed, let's have a beer and watch TV. And it was never more than one beer because I was still nursing. But that became such a like, there was so much like value I was putting on it in that role. Like that made me feel like an adult again. And that made me relax. And that made me feel like me time. I wasn't a mom. I wasn't a new special needs mom. And I see now how that was kind of the foothold to what became a problem because then as Dylan got older, our third daughter came along, which was a surprise. We weren't planning and the way things work out beautifully. Like God
Mm.
absolutely sent her for a reason, but at the time it was just another level of like unexpected stress and chaos. And um that was the beginning of mommy wine culture too here in the States. Like that's really
Mm.
what happened. So I had, 3 kids now under the age of 6, one of whom was
Wow.
special needs, and it all just started to like pile on, and wine was suddenly this thing that was okay to drink all the time because it was like, you've had a hard day, you deserve a glass of wine. It's date night, you deserve wine. Moms get together now at the park and somebody brings wine. And it was just like, I didn't know that it could turn into a problem because everybody was
Mm.
doing it. And it really
Mm.
100% was the way it was marketed and sold to us as like mommy's little helper and it's going to make everything easier and better. So just do it. And I did for years. And it just, like you said, it just slowly kept going. Like there was a span of years in there when I um got really into running and was doing like half marathons and stuff. And so I thought like, well, this is good because I wouldn't drink if I had to run the next day. And it's like, how could you possibly have a problem if I'm running a total of like 30 miles a week, right?
Yeah.
But in my head, more and more, I was living for the days that I ran because those were the nights that I would let myself drink because I knew I wasn't going to run the next day. And still,
Mm.
though, it was like, who cares? Look at all these boxes I'm checking. I'm doing all of this stuff. And then, yeah, for me, then it was when the pandemic hit and everything went crazy here. And by that point, I realized I couldn't take a break from drinking because
Mm.
I kept trying to, and my husband kept saying like, "Well, let's just drink on weekends. Let's just taper off a little bit." And that's when I just started hiding it in my like literally hiding alcohol in my home office because I'm like, "Wow, everybody is making it sound like it should be really easy to just not drink," but it was like excruciating and impossible at that point for me to not drink on a daily basis. Like my panic move was just like, okay, I'll figure this out. But in the meantime, I'm just going to not let them know I'm drinking. And somehow I thought that that would like make it okay. Or like,
Mm.
I don't even know. It's one of those things again where I'm like, what was I
Mm.
thinking? What was,
Mm.
what was my logic? What was my plan? But there wasn't, right? It was just alcohol had its grips in me. And it still didn't occur to me that I was an alcoholic or had a real full blown drinking problem because it's like, well, that doesn't happen to people like me. So
Of
this is just
course.
like, right? Like, no, this is just things are just stressful right now. When they settle down, I'll get a hold on it. And but yeah, then all of a sudden I'm just like looking around one day like how the hell did I get here? Like who am
Mm.
I and what is
Mm.
happening and what do I do now?
And it always comes back to, doesn't it, that conditioning or that idea that I don't have a problem because I'm still maintaining and managing my life from the outside looking in. I don't have a problem because I'm not homeless drinking out of a brown paper bag. And
Right?
it's this perception versus reality. The truth is, if you have told yourself, I'm not going to drink today, and then you're seemingly drinking against your will, then you've probably got a problem with alcohol,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's worth addressing.
Right.
And because for me, I really believe that alcohol addiction, it affects the mind. And so it's incredibly difficult if you've now been affected, if you've gotten to the point where the alcohol has progressively become formed into a full blown addiction, it's almost impossible for that same mind that has the addiction to think your way out of it.
Uh-huh.
Because the addiction wants to survive. So it's going to continue to feed you the stories that will allow you to fuel the behavior. this isn't a problem. It's just a stressful time. Like you said, I'll deal with this a little later when things calm down. All the while, it's getting harder and harder and harder to stop because the addiction gets stronger, not weaker over time.
Yes, 1,000%. Yeah, everything you said, which again, it's like, thank God, like we broke free and have the clarity to see it that way now. But yes,
Mm,
and when it's happening, it's so easy for like alcohol makes it itself center stage in almost everything. And you don't realize like this one thing again, once I got the clarity and got out and can really look at all this, it's like when we're in it and it's such a slippery slope and you're making what at the time you're telling yourself are just like small compromises, you don't know how much of your power you're really truly giving away, and you don't know how much that indicates the severity of your problem with drinking. Like, right, where I'm just like, oh, at first it's like, yes, it's okay if we drink every night now, it's not that big of a deal. Or then, well, it's okay if I now can finish a bottle of wine by myself and need to open a second one, it's not that big of a deal because they do happen slowly. And by that time, like you said, we've normalized the drinking, we've normalized how it makes us feel after the fact. And so you just keep making these small compromises, but they compound, and the
mm,
gravity of them is so big that that's how, yes, we find ourselves where, yeah, like I said, I wasn't drinking out of a brown paper bag, and I wasn't pouring vodka at 10 a.m. yet. I didn't have a DUI, but now I know it was all just like, yet. Like that house of
mm.
cards could have fallen at any minute if I had kept giving alcohol another chance.
Yeah, yeah. And for most people, I find that there's a moment or a series of consequences, incidences. Sometimes for people, it's just a deep inner knowing. But what was it for you, Shannon, whether you call it a rock bottom or a moment of clarity? What was that turning point where you just went, enough is enough?
It was I didn't have a big traditional rock bottom. Like I said, I feel so blessed that I didn't do anything that hurt me or hurt other people, because it certainly could have. I mean, my some of my biggest shame carrying around is still like the times I drank and drove, because I honestly can't count. Like I did it way more than I should have. And looking back, it's like a miracle. I'm like, how did I not? But thank God I didn't. But the summer I quit drinking in September of 2022, and that summer there had been like just a small couple things that had happened. One was a kind of a big situation at a family weekend over the 4th of July, which is our like Independence Day here in the States, and it's always a big holiday weekend. My family cabin, which up until that summer always involved a lot of drinking for all of us adults. And that was one year that it just got out of control. And some other family members got really, really drunk. People got in a fight. Somebody left after, I mean, they were so drunk. It was in that moment, my husband and I both were like, okay, this is not cool. Like that wasn't me and my drinking in that instance, but it was enough that that kind of first planted the seed for me where I was like, I don't want my girls to see this. I don't want them to think that this is how adults have to behave, or that it's okay to behave this way. And during that summer, we were kind of in a transition because we had sold a house and moved in the beginning of the summer. But my girls and I were actually living at my parents' lake house that summer while we waited to move into our new house. So I was drinking a ton that summer because I was essentially on vacation. Like I'm a stay at home mom, so I'm always at home. But that summer we were at the lake with my parents, and the lake, it was like a family party place. Like it had just, that's what it had always become. And in no time at all, I mean, my hiding drinking was insane. Like it got to the point that summer where I remember calculating, because it was, I think the inner knowing was starting to really shift. And I figured out that I was like spending more of my waking hours every day that summer drinking than not drinking, because the girls would get up, but I would kind of lounge in bed with Dylan because I was so hungover. I didn't really roll out of bed until 9 a.m. those days. I would start drinking at 4 because happy hour at the lake would start promptly at 4 p.m. during the week. And most nights I'd stay up until midnight or 1 by myself, just drinking wine. And so I remember kind of having this awareness of like, okay, Shannon, this is getting out of control. Like this is getting really crazy. And so then my rock bottom, or my moment, was at the end of that summer when we moved into this house that we were in now. I had enough of like an inkling of like, I think I need to do something, because this house that we bought has a beautiful custom bar in the basement of it, and it has a pool. And I remember when we finally moved in and got settled, like my own voice being like, that's going to end you. Like having a bar in your basement, like you might as well just like put your bed back there because this is what's going to happen right now. And about a week after that, it was like, I laugh, but I don't laugh. But I laugh because I'm just like, thank God that it was God and my future self. I was trying to hide a bottle of vodka in my underwear drawer because we were in a new house. And so all of a sudden, I had to find new hiding places.
Mm-hmm.
And it took that. It took that where I'm like, okay, I'm actually using energy now to try to seek out new hiding places. And so I'm shoving this bottle of vodka in the back of my underwear drawer. And I so clearly in my head, like, heard my own voice and saw like a future version of me, which honestly, it's like me now because, like I said at the time, like I didn't even look or feel like myself. I've regained my health, and part of that has been losing about 60 pounds since I quit drinking.
Mm.
And in my head, I saw myself and I heard my voice and just said, Shannon, really? Are you fucking serious? This is what you're doing. You are going to be a woman that's hiding vodka in her underwear drawer. Like this is, you're okay with this? And in that moment, I was just like, I have goosebumps now because I remember standing there like, no, like, I don't want to be this woman anymore. I want to be this person. Like I was trying to like make sure my daughters didn't hear me and come down the hall and see me hiding vodka in my drawer. And so I think that night I signed up for a program that I had been like aware of and knew of. And I just did it because I was like, if I don't just do this now, I'm going to back out. I'm going to keep making more excuses. And I told my husband, which was hard because he's a normie. And so
Mm.
he didn't he didn't get it in a lot of ways. He still doesn't. But I finally was just like, I don't care. I don't care if he doesn't understand. I knew that I didn't want to keep going, but I also knew that I couldn't figure out how to quit on my own because I had
Mm.
tried. I had tried that
Mm.
so many times. And
Mm.
all that ever happened is I ended up drinking more. Like it always got worse after I managed to take a break. And so that was it. I signed up for a program, and I think my day one was like a month later. And
Wow.
yeah, it was like once I don't know, once I did it and committed and got into it, I was just like, I'm gonna make this work. Like I don't care what it takes. I'm
Mm.
done. I was just so sick of it, honestly. Like I just was like, I can't do it anymore. It was so exhausting.
Has there ever been any thoughts? I'm curious whether in the beginning of your journey or even later on in your journey where you thought to yourself, I just need to figure out or learn how to drink better and then I'll go back to drinking. I mean, chatting to you now, it feels like you've got that finality around it. But is that the case?
Not no, not this time because I had tried that
Mm.
so many other times.
Mm.
When I usually tell people, I'm like, I had really tried to quit drinking seriously 3 times in the 3 years before I figured it out, and it's like one time it lasted almost 3 months, another time it only lasted like 2 months, and then the last time it only lasted like 3 weeks because but all of those times were like that, like I was just trying to figure out the reset, like, I
Mm.
just need to not drink for long enough, and I believed I would magically then be able to moderate, not want to drink all the time, and it never ever worked that way. So yeah, it was then like luckily this time I think I had done just enough of a deep dive into sober Instagram and I had
Mm.
finally read some quit lit books and some things were really clicking where like I was finally able to accept that like, you know what? It's either all or nothing. Like I'm a
Mm.
person that it's just all or nothing. And at the time I still really didn't want to label myself an alcoholic. Like I still was
Mm.
buying into a lot of the shame and the stigma around that.
Mm.
Which changed, and I don't remember exactly when, but I hit a point where all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, but actually for me, I'm like, I'm okay admitting that I'm an alcoholic," because I felt like for me it opened up the full like everything that's available to recovery, like I can access all of that now because I'm willing to admit that this is me. This is my brain. Like there is just
Mm.
there can never be a place for alcohol in my life. And so, yeah, this time I had like completely surrendered to that because I had
Mm.
spent like almost 4 years. trying to figure out how to like keep alcohol around. And yeah, finally I was just like, no, it's not going to happen. Like, it
I
just can't.
I just love that you've shared that, Shannon. Thank you so much because I also identify as an alcoholic. And what I see time and time again for people is, when they buy into the stigma and they refuse to, I'm using air quotes here, label
Mhm.
themselves. And then you're right, they cut themselves off from all of these resources. But even more, what identifying as an alcoholic did for me was it helped me to realize that my addiction is not a moral failing. When I drink alcohol, I have a completely different physiological reaction to somebody who doesn't carry this disease or have this addiction. So I can't compare myself to my girlfriend who can have half a bottle of wine and put the lid back on because she doesn't have the same reaction. She doesn't get the allergy. When you were talking earlier about how you used to throw up every day,
Yeah.
when you first started drinking, I was the same. And then it was explained to me that's an allergic reaction to alcohol that not everyone has. And I'm like, really? I just thought I was, like didn't have the constitution. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's in that, being able to go, no, I am an alcoholic and therefore that means that I can never drink successfully again. It takes the conversation of moderation off the table.
Mhm.
It's actually the easier way, I
Yeah.
believe, to
Yes.
approach sobriety and recovery versus I'm a grey area drinker or I'm a this or I'm
Yeah.
a that. Like it's just very clear, black and white. I'm an alcoholic, which means I can't drink alcohol. It's also a lot more helpful when you're with friends, family, or somebody, maybe even an acquaintance. Hey, I
Right.
can't drink alcohol. I'm an alcoholic versus, oh, I'm just having a break or, like
Right.
how did you go with that? Because your husband still, you said he's a
Mhm.
normie, he still drinks. And you mentioned like you had the lake house with your family and that's a real party place. I imagine that you're still married. I know that you're still married
Yes.
and
Yep.
you still have a relationship with your family. So how have you
Yeah.
navigated those spaces and places now that you're sober?
Yeah. I early on, I was really pretty quickly, I was fine setting some boundaries where I needed to. So even with my husband, it's fun. I was just actually talking with clients about that this week because they're like, "Oh, my husband drinks, but he can only have one drink, blah blah blah." And I shared with them like a rule that my husband and I made in the very beginning, and it still stands. I told him, I'm like, I don't want to kiss you if you've been drinking because it just in the beginning it was I felt like because I didn't want to be tempted and he respected that. And then it quickly, I was just like, it just smells and tastes so disgusting that like I don't want to have anything to do with that. And he's okay with it. And he's like, okay, I get it. He understands what's happening. And there was also some I got kind of lucky with him, I will say, like he wasn't a wine drinker. Like I was always a wine drinker. That was my thing. So if he had also been a wine drinker, I would have definitely asked if he could have like kept it out of the house for a period of time. But I even by a few months in, I was at the point where I'm like, I don't care if you want to drink, if it's around, because I really just knew that it wasn't for me. And so with my family, it took longer, I think, for them to really believe that this was going to hold because I mean, oh my God, part of my personality was drinking, right? Like I was always the one organizing like the drinking themes of weekends and the one pouring mimosas or Bloody Marys at like 9 a.m. on the weekends at the cabin and everything like that. So for a long time, the whole first year, it was still, my siblings were like, okay, if you make it through this, like if you make it through this wedding, if you make it through this holiday, then like maybe you're really serious. And it took until like my 1 year. And they were like, oh, so you're actually really serious about this. And yeah, by that point, I had fully adopted what you just said. I'm like, you guys, I'm an alcoholic. There is no like just one or just few. I'm like, I've tried, I've been there. I just don't want to do that anymore. But like I said, I also pretty quickly was at a point where I'm like, I'm fine if people drink about around me because it doesn't tempt me because I don't want it. Like I am truly so much happier and more content with myself without it. So I'm like, if my husband has a drink, if I'm hanging out with my family and people are drinking, like, I mean, sometimes it becomes annoying, right? Like, we know that if you're around people that drink too much, it's just like, and that doesn't happen that often, but it's just kind of like, it's just not for me. And I'm 100% at peace with that at this point and have been for a while that it's just like, you do you, but I'm going to do me too. So,
It's so important to be able to have those boundaries and to really just come back to your why as
Yeah.
well, right? And to know
Right.
your truth.
Yep.
And other people can have their feelings, their opinions. There is going to be an element of disappointing people, friends, family who want to still be able to have a drink with you. But at the end of the day, it's your life, not theirs. And it's about
Yep.
making the decisions that are right for you in the long term.
Yeah.
So obviously, sobriety has completely transformed your life, and you're now a sober coach. And you've developed a program called the Alcohol Free Blueprint, which really has a lot of the different practices and principles that really helped you in those early days.
Yeah.
Shannon, could you talk to us about some of those different practices? What's really been the game changer for you?
For me, I think what I figured out early on was kind of pulling from a couple different areas, like a lot of mindset work, like we said, like even before like my morning routine turned into devotionals, I've always had a gratitude practice, and I've always really tended to gravitate towards things about like positive thinking and stuff like that. And so I know that that helped me a lot in my own getting sober journey. Well, my background as a certified holistic nutritionist also helped me a lot. And like the program that I did to quit drinking didn't talk about that stuff at all, but I knew in my own journey, I'm like, I know that I am experiencing transformation quicker because of these other things that I was doing in my life. And so when I hit my 1 year sober and started, I mean, it started with just like an Instagram subscription. And then I had some people that are like, will you coach me? And so I was forming my program before I was really even forming it. And like I'd run groups for like Sober October or Dry January. And it just pulled together all of this stuff. So there's like a nutrition and holistic health aspect to it, because
Mm,
when we pay attention to like how we hydrate, how we move our body, what we eat or what we don't eat, even some supplements to help kind of address the damage we've done by drinking. And then you pair that with, making sure that you're not staying stuck in old stories or a victim mindset that are not serving you. And then lay it out in a way that, you kind of make sobriety the focus for a good 4 to 6 weeks in the beginning, like kind of like an intensive, and just really address like, yeah, what's underneath it. Like for me, I knew when I finally quit drinking, it's because I was finally ready to face the stress and the trauma of having a daughter with special needs that I had just never faced before. So
mm,
there's that layer of it too. Like we can't just remove alcohol and not change anything else in our life, or sooner or later the alcohol is going to win again. So
mhm,
there's a layer of that too. It's like, why do you drink? What are the situations you drink in the most often? Well, there lies the thing that needs to be addressed and be fixed and be healed. So then we can get to the point where it's not that, is what I say and what I really firmly believe. Like, yes, I know I can't drink, like you've said, like I'm an alcoholic. The way alcohol affects my body, I don't want it because I can't have it because of what it does to me. But now I've arranged my life in a way that I actually just don't want it anymore. Like I don't
mm,
want to drink. I don't need to drink to self-medicate all the things that I was using it for years. So when we can figure that out, like that's what changes everything, because I don't
mm.
feel the need to use alcohol as a crutch anymore.
You said something that really resonated with me then, just about how, because I think for a lot of people, particularly if you're really in the depths of addiction, there can often be associated with that quite a victim mindset. It goes along the lines of, well, you drink if you had to live like this. You drink if you had a daughter with special needs. You drink if fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And so for some people, they think, well, the only way I'm going to be able to stop is I remove myself from that situation. But that's not always an option. And, Dylan's your daughter. Of course, that was not going to
Yeah.
be an option. So, how did you learn different ways to self soothe and regulate your nervous system when you were being activated, where in the past the solution would have been that bottle of wine? Where's the shift been there?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's ironic because that's probably the area the most where I was like, I need to just like practice what I preach to other people, because it's like paying it. So for me, it's like, I mean, so many big and little things, like paying attention that I'm not doing things to stress my body out more than it already is. So it's like, I love
Mm,
coffee, but the longer I'm sober, the less caffeine actually agrees with me. So a lot of my coffee is decaf now, because caffeine spikes my cortisol, which I'm already on a cortisol roller coaster 24/7, having a daughter with special needs. So it's learning yeah, addressing the things like that. Like, okay, I tend to be in more of that like fight or flight all the time because of the heaviness of my life situation. So I control what I can. Like I make sure that the foods I'm eating are nourishing me and nourishing my brain. I pay attention to things like sleep. Like I never used to understand the importance of like a regular bedtime and a regular waking time to actually help my body function. You know, some of it, like I said, it's food, it's supplements so that I'm supporting my brain, supporting my hormones. And then a lot of it is other stuff that honestly I always kind of made fun of. I think because I was threatened by the idea of people that could do life without alcohol. But it's like, no, some breathing exercises. It's things like gratitude. It's being even just open and honest with my husband and the rest of the family, where it's like, if we're having a hard day, I'm like, you know what? I need a break. It doesn't make me a bad mom to say that it's been a really long day. I need 30 minutes to myself. So I'm going for a walk and I don't want to take Dylan with on this walk, or I'm taking a shower or I'm taking a bath. So much of my life before was this idea of like being a good mom meant 100% self-sacrifice to the point of like burnout and exhaustion, and like you said, my nervous system was completely shot, where now it's like, okay, Dylan is still Dylan. Yes, it's still stressful. I can't change a lot of that, but I change how I show up, and I show up better when I take care of myself. So it's food, it's water, it's sleep, it's good relationships, right? Like I said, it's friendships, it's my own mentor and coaches and therapists and people that I can turn to when I'm like, okay, this sucks. This is heavy. This is hard. What do I do? But also, what don't I know? What are some ways that could help me cope with this that I'm just not aware of yet that
Mm,
somebody could teach me?
yeah.
And yeah, so it's just this ongoing process of how do I deal with stress by soothing my body, soothing my mind. And also, if I do still need to numb or escape, sometimes there are ways to do that that just aren't alcohol, right? Like I have so many games on my phone that I love to play now that I'm like sparkling water, chocolate, my favorite reruns on TV, and games on my
Mm,
phone that give me like a dopamine hit. I'm like, we still numb and escape a little bit. I'm just not burning my life down or like giving myself cancer at the
yes.
time. So it's like, it's a balance of all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love it's so true. We're not saints, we're not claiming
Totally.
to be these perfect people who
No.
don't do anything. It's just about, like I often say, choose your hard or
Yeah.
choose your numb, choose your
Yep.
numb. And that having that conscious awareness of there was a few weeks ago where I just bottomed out and my nervous system was completely fried. And so I had to take a couple of days, which is so uncomfortable for me because part of my coping is to just always be in the doing of life.
Yes.
And so to really just sit back, but I was doing it very eyes wide open.
Yeah.
And if anything, I had to actually talk to that little Ash, that inner child, saying it's okay to rest. You're not
Yes.
being lazy right now. This is
Yep.
just what we need to recharge. And I
Yep.
think, to your point, knowing that there are other ways that you can self-soothe and come back to yourself, and learning that they can replace what was once the solution that alcohol provided. You
Yeah.
don't have to, it's not like you've got a raw dog life without any support around you.
Exactly.
There's those other options. I'm
Yeah.
curious, Shannon, relapse doesn't sound like it's been a part of your story once you made that decision. And I'm a bit the same, 5.5 years ago when I went into rehab, that was my last drink and drug. But I know that we're not the norm. For the majority of people, there are slip ups, there are relapses. I'm sure many of your clients have experienced that. What do you say to people when they're on and off the wagon and they're just finding it really hard to make it stick?
Yeah. I think, well, one thing, saying like a phrase that always comes up for me that I really wholeheartedly believe is that like progress over perfection,
Mm,
always, because this path is rarely linear for us, right? For anybody. And like you said, like now, so many things clicked for me this time in my
mm,
journey. But I was actually again talking to some clients about this last weekend. Like I think I first had the inkling that my drinking was not good in 2017, 2016 actually, and I didn't quit until 2022. So that was my like progress over perfection. There were so many times of like trying to quit. Like I said, I would take breaks, be like, okay, I'm going to take a break and maybe only make it the weekend, and beat myself up. But then when I got to the point where it's like, okay, but what can I learn from this? A lot of times it's just even like being willing to get into that messy self-awareness and that reflection, like you said, of like, what are we using the alcohol for? Like, what are you trying to numb? What are you trying to escape? What is the thing that keeps trying to come up and you keep trying to shove it back down with alcohol that like sooner or later you've got to just face it. And if you can't face it alone, be okay asking for help
Mm,
and really try to trust that that's not a weakness, it's not a failing, right? Like whether and then that can be a sober program, it can also just be like therapy. Like
mm,
what is going, where do you need people to teach you something you don't know about how to handle what's happened in your life? Like I think that's
mm,
it, because I think you kind of touched on this, you said something before where it's like the victim mindset thing where it's like, yeah, so many of us have had just shitty stuff happen to us. I never want to minimize that,
mhm,
but we get to decide what we do with those terrible things. They can either be the thing that like sinks us and drowns us or turns us into a bitter, horrible person,
mm.
or they can be the reason that we try to do better and do differently. And there's no shame if it takes a while to figure out how to move past those terrible things. But if you don't even keep trying, then you're certainly never going to get past them, right?
So true. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't want anyone to feel like it's too late. It's really
Right.
never too late to make this change. I remember when I was in rehab, there was a guy in there in his mid 60s. I think he was almost 70. It's never too late to choose this path and to choose a better life for yourself. And just trust that whatever the pain is that has gotten you to this point, it's been there to get you here. And now, like you said, it's your choice what you want to do with that. Do you want to keep repeating the same patterns and getting the same result? Or do you want to maybe try something a little different and, you know, potentially live a life that is just beyond anything you could possibly ever imagine?
Right. Exactly. I
Yeah.
think that's it too. I always try to help people understand it's like, yes, when you're thinking about like your pain, the trauma, if it's stuff from the past or if it's even a present circumstance, like it can feel so impossible. Like it can be so hard to believe that you could feel differently about that situation. But right now, your only frame of reference is this version of you that's stuck in alcohol. And so it is a huge leap of faith. But that leap of faith could be what saves you, because the whole point is it's like when you quit drinking, you're not going to be that version of you anymore. So if it feels so hard and hopeless and you feel helpless now, you're going to feel better. So who knows how much better you could handle it, because you're not going to feel the same way that you feel now. So much of that, just like that weight, like, right, that suffocating, the hopelessness, it begins to disappear when we put down the bottle. And then it's like, oh,
So true.
wow, I actually can maybe handle more than I thought I was capable of handling.
So true, isn't it? And
Yeah.
really, it seems so obvious when you think about it. If you're not putting a poison into your body every day, and all of your energy isn't going towards detoxifying your body from this poison,
Right.
imagine how much more energy and
Right?
therefore resilience you have to just face life.
Yeah. And even like just brain power to
Mhm.
actually like problem solve. Like I remember thinking when that kind of occurred to me, it's like, oh my gosh, like I actually have time to not just like sit and ruminate on my problems and think like, oh my God, this is so stressful. This is so hard. This is so unfair. It's like, oh, but wait, why don't I try this? It's like, huh, when I'm not spending all of my energy hating myself for my drinking, feeling shame, guilt, regret, and then, like you said, also like being nauseous, having the shakes, all of that, it's like an insane amount of brain power that suddenly can go to other things. And it's like, maybe I'm going to try this way or look at this way. It's just like, what I'm like, how did it take me this long to figure this out?
Mm,
But you don't know what you don't know until you just like start doing it.
exactly. Amen to that. Oh, Shannon, I have just absolutely loved chatting with you today. It's been so much
Gosh,
fun. Honestly, thank you. We have a final question that I like to ask all of my
yes.
guests, and really, it's to help people understand how you live your life today, stepped out from behind the smile, which I can see, looking and having this conversation with today, you totally embody that. So the question, Shannon, I have for you is, what are your three non-negotiables that allow you to live your life today happy, authentic, and free?
Oh my gosh, I love that. I mean, one of my non-negotiables is definitely my morning routine, because
Mm,
it's even when we're traveling, like I said, even if somehow I only have 5 minutes, it's gratitude and God are like the first
mm,
things in my head every single day. My second non-negotiable is that like my peace and my family, like what's best for my family of five is more important than anything else. I will not compromise on what I need for myself and my family. I don't, even for my work, even for like my extended family, nothing is more important than what's best for the five of us. And honestly, then I think it's just my non-negotiable is just like, I want to say it's a perspective. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think living the life I live, having a daughter with special needs, it's really easy for me to not waste energy on like really trivial, like bullshit, stupid stuff.
Mm,
And so I have a boundary around that. Like if people try to drag me into things that I just know are not part of like the big picture life, I just put a hard stop. Like, no, that doesn't need to be a part of my world at all, because I've got real problems and real work to do. And I don't ever say that to be like minimizing or condescending, but it's, I have an 18-year-old adult disabled daughter that's going to live with me forever. I don't have time to make up
mm,
problems. I don't because we
mm.
have problems.
It's so true having that perspective. I love that. So you've got your morning routine, you've got your family, and you've got boundaries. I think they're three
Yeah.
very, very solid non-negotiables. So thank you for sharing those. Shannon, I just know people are going to want to track you down. So where can they go?
Oh my gosh. Instagram, but otherwise my website. Everything's on my website. So shannonleemccabe.com. It's where, yes, you can Instagram. My podcast is linked there. I have a blog, lots of free resources, some of my paid programs. It's all right there. So yeah, you can link that in the show notes and people can find me there.
That's exactly what I will do. All of
Yeah.
that information is going to be in the episode show notes. Shannon, we say here on Behind the Smile that when we recover loudly, no one need suffer in silence. So thank you so, so much for being here today, for sharing your story and for everything you do in the space.
Oh my gosh, thank you. This conversation has moved me. I really, really appreciate this so much.
Such a pleasure. Take care.
Yeah, you too.